The Liske case. Now, this is a horrible case that happened early one Halloween morning. Are you ready to dive in and join me? Well, this is Screams for You, and I'm V. So turn down those lights and lock those doors. Here's a scream you can't ignore. So this case is I would say it's pretty notable. It didn't get a lot of coverage when it happened, but there's a lot of information out there now about it. So this case is really horrible. It happened early morning, October 31st, 2010. Now, 16-year-old Devin Liske sang in a church choir, and that day he had to be there for choir practice. He had spent the weekend with his dad, and he ran home real quick and he grabbed some of his clothes for church and left. And on his way out, he seen his stepbrother, but he didn't see any of the rest of his family. But it was really early morning, so there wasn't nothing quite unusual. Just thought everybody was probably still sleeping because they had been out hunting the day before and had a party. So he thought everyone was just sleeping in a little bit. And he went ahead and went to choir practice. So when he gets back from choir practice, he goes into his house and he doesn't pay attention to anything. He's a 16-year-old boy. He goes straight to his room. He's ready to get back to his video games that he hadn't had all weekend long since he was at his dad's house. So he's up there just playing video games for a couple of hours, and then he realizes that he hasn't heard or seen anybody at all in his family. So he starts looking for him. He heads downstairs. His bedroom was upstairs, and he looks around everywhere, down around, in the kitchen and living room and stuff, and he doesn't see anybody. So he decides to go up to his mom and stepfather's room. He gets up there and he sees that they're both still in bed, and he's thinking that's unusual. And he notices that the blankets are pulled up over their faces and heads. And he decides that's weird, so he calls out for his mom. Like, Mom, Mom. And he gives it a second, but nobody moves. Then he's thinking, oh, I get it. This is some Halloween trick, right? They're just trying to spook me and get a good reaction out of me. So he walks over to the bed and he pulls back the blankets. And as he does, there he discovers his mom's deceased body. And beside her, her husband, his stepfather, was also deceased. And this boy freaks out and he runs outside, hysterical, and calls his aunt. And people criticize him for calling his aunt. She's the one that called 911. But, he's a 16-year-old boy. He's confused about what's going on. He's scared, and that's where he finds his comfort. So there's no reason to be down on him about that. I mean, I would imagine any child in that situation would want to talk to the first person. You don't necessarily, even as an adult, know how to deal with a traumatic situation like that, right? So his aunt calls 911 for him, and the police show up and they quarter off, everything around the house, and they go in and find that his stepdad had been shot 5 times and his mom had been shot about 3 times. And it was about 1 to 2 feet away from them. They're guessing that the stepdad was shot while he was asleep because he was in a sleeping position and it looked like his mom had been moved. So they think that she heard the shots and was getting up and then shot and then repositioned back into bed with the covers pulled up over their blankets. Well, during this time, they notice that Devin's brother is also missing. So they start frantically looking for him, and they find him up in his own room, and he is curled up in the fetal position and is deceased. Now there's one more missing person, and that is Devin's stepbrother that he seen that morning when he came to get his church clothing. And Devin recalls that his stepbrother, BJ, was pretty talkative that morning when he is usually a very quiet person, and they start looking everywhere for him. He is now suspect number 1. Now, his stepbrother, BJ, has had a lot of trouble. In fact, he wasn't even really allowed to be at the house because he attacked his stepmother, Devin's mom, while she was in the shower, and his father had to kick him out. Now, he was 18 years old at this time, and they found him a facility to stay in that was kind of like a halfway house for people that had problems emotionally and mentally to help them out. So his stepbrother BJ had these troubles long before BJ's dad and Devin's mom got married, and they thought they could handle it. And BJ's dad loved him and was trying the best he could to get him the help that he needed for his mental health, but nothing was really working out. Even though he was at this house, he did have a curfew. He was supposed to be back. He wasn't supposed to be at the other house overnight and things like that for safety measures. But his dad, BJ's dad, loved him. And that weekend so far had been very great. They had a great time hunting. They had a great time at the party afterwards. And BJ's dad didn't really want to drive him back to the home because he had been drinking and he felt that it was unsafe to drink and drive. So he had made up a bed for him on the couch that night. So that way, everyone could be safe. And since things had gone so well, it didn't seem like there was any kind of danger. He'd been over a few times, but had not stayed the night, and every time things had gone very wonderfully. But when the police found him, they picked him up, and BJ confessed right away to the murders of the whole entire family. He didn't say, why he didn't kill Devin. They assume that he let Devin go because Devin was on his way out. He was just stopping in for a second, grabbed clothes. He knew he wouldn't be looking around the house. And BJ was already loading up a truck and getting ready to leave. Wasn't really expecting him to show up in the first place. And so that's why they think that BJ didn't shoot or kill Devin and why he let him go. Now, when the police asked, what happened? Why did you do this? Was there a reason? He just said that he did not know. He didn't have a reason and why he would shoot his mother and his father and beat his stepbrother with a hammer. He had no idea. So they had all the information to go ahead and, bring it into court. And he got sentenced to life in prison. But it didn't last long. He ended up taking his own life. A horrific story. Things probably could have been different. We all know that it's hard for people to get help with their mental health through something differently. But the thing is that they tried to find him the help that he needed, and it just didn't work. And now Devin was left without his mother and without his brother, and left with this knowledge that he was in this house with them without noticing that something was wrong. And he has a big burden. We can all just hope that he has received the help that he needs, so that way this doesn't affect him throughout his entire life, which I'm sure it always will in some way. And so hopefully Devin can make it through this tragedy without any problems. But it's going to be hard. And that is our story of the Liske family and their tragic Halloween. Don't forget, we still got more to come. It's not Halloween yet, so there's a bunch of stories still coming up. So like and subscribe, and don't forget to have a creepy night.